9 p.m. live in stories. The head of state receives French State Secretary Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne. UN calls on the world to declare a state of climate emergency. Hello, welcome again. Welcome to our newsroom for having the news in details. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Margele, on Sunday sent a message of congratulation to his Kenyan counterpart, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, whose country is celebrating the anniversary of its National Day. In his message, President Margele wished to Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta health and happiness and further progress, development and prosperity to the brotherly Kenyan people. The head of state then welcomed the privileged nature of the relation of friendship and cooperation between the two countries and the two people, and stated his own determination to always work to strengthen and consolidate these already excellent ties. He also took the opportunity in his telegram to salute the incessantly continuous commitment shown by the Kenyan sister nation and friend to increase the level of stabilization and economic integration of our region. President Ismail Margele reiterates his wishes of success and prosperity to Mrs. Uhuru Kenyatta and happy celebration to all the brotherly and friendly people of Kenya. Now, as I mentioned on the title, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Margele, received this Sunday afternoon at the Palace of the Republic the French State Secretary of Tourism, French Abroad and Francophonie, Mr. Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne. The audience between President Margele and the member of the French government served as a framework to evoke the relation of friendship and cooperation between the two nations, as well as the exceptional partnership they maintain in military and defense fields. The achievement of greater involvement of French companies in the development of Djibouti was also discussed during this meeting. The discussion were also extended to the identification of new strategic poles of collaboration between the two parties in an often turbulent region and world in perpetual reconfiguration. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Mohamed Ali Yusuf, and the Ambassador of the Republic of Djibouti to French Republic, Mr. Ayed Yahya, took part in these talks. Also present at the audience were the General Secretary of the Presidency, Mr. Mohamed Abdullahi Wais, and the Diplomatic Advisor to the Head of State, Mrs. Fathia Jamah. On the French side, the Ambassador of the French Republic to the Republic of Djibouti, Mr. Arnaud Gillois, took part in this event. Mr. Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne visit to Djibouti is part of the direct and regular contacts between the political leaders of the two countries who maintain secular relations woven by the thread of history and relate to the daily routine by a community of action and commitment on the ground in almost all areas of activities. In his speech, Mr. Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne mentioned that this is within the framework of the direct and periodic contacts between the political leaders of the two countries who maintain secular relations woven by the thread of history and relate to the daily routine by a community of action and commitment in the field in almost all fields of activity. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and Government spokesman, Mr. Mohamed Ali Yusuf, stressed the willingness to enhance the strategic friendship between Djibouti and France and to advance relations between the two countries in order to achieve the expectation of the two friendly peoples. Now, the State Secretary for Youth and Sport, His Excellency Hassan Mohamed Kamel, received in audience this morning in his office Mrs. Fatima El Sheikh, resident representative of the UNDP in Djibouti. The meeting focused on the relations existing between Djibouti and UNDP in the field of youth and the means likely to strengthen them. In particular, it was about the organization on the eve of the new year of a day of celebration to youth project initiative in relation to different initiatives and challenges of the year 2020. A festive day rich in exchanges, which will therefore come to a fitting end to an exceptional year marked by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the General Secretary to the Presidency, Mr. Naguib Abdullah Mohammed, on the sidelines of the ceremony to the inauguration of the bank branch, was able to symbolically inaugurate a modern restaurant and a cyber cafe, two projects carried out by young Obokwaz with the financial support of the President of the Republic. In fact, the young Mohammed Amr Hamad, a computer engineer of his state, had seized the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Margeli, during his tour last March in Obokh to request financial support for his investment project in Obokh. This was done by the head of state, who provided him with the necessary funds for the realization of his two projects, namely a modern restaurant and a place of internet connection which was lacking in Obokh. Mr. Nagib Abdullah Muhammad took advantage of this visit to warmly congratulate the young investor who was able to honor his commitment to his illustrious benefactor in the presence of the President of the Republic. An example for the people of Obokh, the youth of Obokh, who should be inspired by him, declared Mr. Nagib, who also called on the Obokh youth to believe in its capacity for creativity and entrepreneurship. In his statement, the Prime Minister's General Secretary, Mr. Nagib Abdullah, praised the role of young people and encouraged them to improve their conditions. Now, the President of Djibouti Ports and Free Zones authorities, Mr. Abubakar Omar Hadi, received this morning at the DIFTS, the new ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Djibouti, His Excellency Mr. Michael Hosler. A discussion focused on the development achieved in terms of infrastructure and possible cooperation between the two countries with a view to future investment in strategic areas such as the new international airport in Djibouti. It should be noted that the host paid a visit to the Dorali Container Terminal Management Company. They were welcomed by Mr. Abdullah Adawi. They also paid a visit to the Dorali Multipurpose Ports, where they were welcomed by Mr. Jam Ibrahim. Early on Sunday, December 13, 2020, the Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, moved aboard the helicopter to go first to Tajura and then to Obokh, where a joint operation involving the two regiments of the North is underway, namely the Tajura Joint Regiment and the Obokh Joint Regiment. In his trip, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim was accompanied by Brigadier General Tahir Ali Mohammed, Chief of Defense Staff, Colonel Abdullah Abdi Farah, Director of National Police, and on a delegation of senior officers of the General Staff of the Armed Forces. On descent from the helicopter, the general was welcomed by the two chiefs of the Northern Regiment Corps, namely Colonel Ali Sheikh Daoud, commander of Tajura Inter-Services Regiment, and Colonel Adan Aduali, commander of Obokh Inter-Service Regiment. The general then greeted the pict erected in his honor before returning to the hall for a briefing. As a prelude, Colonel Ali Sheikh Daoud, commander of the Tajura Inter-Armies Regiment, explained to the general the operation in the way. Indeed, this control and sweeping operation aims to secure the northern region from any constraint that could harm and hinder economic and social development, the free movement of goods and people. It also serves as training for the military in the context of maintaining operationality. Thus, the two heads of corps were able to share with General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim the specificity of the mission. Imbued with these details, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim ordered the two heads of corps to increase the frequency of training for the benefits of the soldiers and to increase vigilance. And after Tajura, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim and his delegation still traveled on board of the helicopter to Obokh. Immediately, the army general went to the prefecture where they met the prefect of Obokh region, Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Banoita. Together, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim and the prefect discussed the security situation in the region and the exemplary collaboration between the civil authorities and the men in uniform. That being the case, the Chief of General Staff and his delegation visited the civilian prison of Obokh to see the state of this building firsthand. Indeed, a renovation project of this civilian prison is underway to rehabilitate the place with the aim of making it functional. The Ministry of Women and Family organized this morning at UNFD a sensitization session for members of neighborhood councils on the creation of community mutual development organization with the technical support of the Djibouti UNFPA with funding from the European Union. The objective of the event is, among other things, to make people understand the model of community mutual development funds, to master the solidarity and community health microcredit fund system, but also to install in the participants, who are none other than the president of the neighborhood councils, a clear idea of the role of the management committees of the funds and the technical commission. The president of the district council took it in the turn to speak, all of them introducing themselves and explaining how they functioned and what their motivation were in the particular districts. It should be remembered that the Community Mutual Development Association plays a key role in harmonizing social cohesion and eradicating poverty through the microcredits provides and opportunities that the initiative can create. Recently, Djiboutians have been devoting a lot of time to reading since the launch of the literary cafe, which invites writers for interactive debates with book lovers. The French Institute of Djibouti hosted yesterday evening a session of literary cafe with as main guest the great writer Dr. Ali Moussaie, author of The Tree of Verdict, The Destiny, Rosaries of Destiny. Numerous writers, including notably Dr. Shahimwata, the writer John Dominique Benel, as well as the initiator of the literary cafe, Mr. Moussa Kaku, and Mrs. Nadia Abdullah, participated in the event alongside several guests, including writers from the members of the literary cafe and many young book lovers. The debate focused on the book by Ali Moussaie entitled Rosary of Destiny. Let us recall that this book, written in 1998, was reissued last year, and the session focused on the presentation of the book contents of this book by Dr. Ali Moussaie, which begins with a poem and motto in 5 thematic. After the presentation of the author by Dr. Shahimwata, an interactive signature were present, and a debate took place between Dr. Ali Moussaie and the participant composer, writers, and many young people. Moving on to another subject now, on Saturday, 12th December 2020, the Karma Current Association made a stopover in Garsel Daba, a village in the sub-prefecture of As'aila in the Dakhil region, as part of its charitable activities. This village is the penultimate stop on the long journey begun in September 2020 by the Karma Current Association and its members in the locality of Djibouti-Ethiopian corridor. This aid, which is based on solidarity and social mutual aid, will contribute to significantly improving the living condition of the population in the face of economic and climatic hazards. The association has distributed sanitary equipment to combat the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, mosquitoes nets to protect the population of the malaria and other vector-borne disease, sport equipment consisting of cups, jerseys, and balls. In addition, the school children of the village primary school benefited from a large donation of school supply kits and hand delivered by Mr. Ali Halaf, president of the Karma Current Association, to the head of the village, Okals, Mr. Abdul Qadir Ibrahim. Also, in the framework of the fight against smuggling in Dakhil, the National Police Force, composed of a contingent of UPF police force sent to reinforce the Dakhil Police Detachment in collaboration with the Dakhil Custom, intercepted yesterday, December 12, 2020, a large consignment of smuggled cats from Ethiopia through the area of locality of Mandora, 8 kilometers from the city, transported in the bags of men. The seizure consists of 9 cat packs, a total of 450 kilos of cat from Ethiopia. The destruction of these cats took place in the barracks of the National Police of Dakhil, where this important batch of cats was destroyed and caught by a fire. Moving on to international news now, 5 years after the Paris Agreement, the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres called on the world to declare a state for a climate emergency and to double effort against global warming. On Saturday, 12 December, during a video conference summit in the Paris Accord 5 years ago, the international community pledged to keep global warming significantly below 2 Celsius and, if possible, 1.5 compared to the pre-industrial levels. But the greenhouse gas emission reduction commitment made by individual countries were not enough and have not been met. Antonio Guterres stressed before calling for a 45% reduction in global emission by 2013 compared to 2010 levels. Dozens of heads of state and government, as well as businesses and civil society representatives, took part in the Ambience Climate Summit organized by the United Nations, the UK and France in partnership with Chile and Italy. With less than a year to go before COP26 in November 2021 in Glasgow, Scotland, the UN General Secretary urged them to be ambitious. This is it for this edition of 9 p.m. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful evening.
Marie l'Automotive, fournisseur exclusif de Toyota à Djibouti depuis 1970. 50 ans de performance et de savoir pour un service